Hi, my name is Oscar and I'm a scientist. In this channel we talk about green card categories in which you can self-petition. That means you don't need to have a job offer or a company sponsoring you, and you don't even need to have a lawyer if you choose not to. Today we're going to talk about the specific topic of appeals. Appeals means what happens if your petition gets denied. Do you have any choice there? What can you do? How long it's going to take? How much money you need to invest? What are your success chances? We're going to cover all of this in this video, so stay until the end to hear all the details about it. So let's jump into it. First of all, I want to say that I hope you don't need to file an appeal, particularly if you follow this channel, if you have visited my websites that I list here for EB-2 NIW or EB-1 and especially if you enroll in my online course, because it is designed to avoid this type of situation. An appeal is not an RFE. An RFE is a request for evidence during your regular process, and you still have a chance to reply. We're going to see all of that in a minute so you can understand the difference between the RFE and the appeal. The appeal, in summary, is you are requesting a different authority, not the person that reviewed your initial case, but someone else, a different office altogether, to review the case when the decision was unfavorable to you, when you get a denial. That different office for our EB-1 and EB-2 NIW I-140 petitions, that's going to be the Administrative Appeals Office, in short AAO. So it's a separate entity within the same agency of USCIS, but it's a separate set of people, okay? So this AAO, it may ring a bell to you if you follow this channel, because I have a couple of videos talking about mistakes that people make during this EB-2 NIW process, and I took those cases from a database that the AAO has. So you can go to one of these videos. I'll leave links in the description and also here, so you can see the type of decision they take, and they publish it, and you can learn a lot about what people do and what you should avoid doing, okay? Today, in this video, we're going to talk about appeals. So where do they fit in the overall process? We're going to start with a diagram talking about it, how to appeal if you choose to do that, what is the timeline, what can you expect in terms of days, weeks, months, how much money you need to budget for this process, what are your chances of success based on the general statistics, and a conclusion. We all want to answer this question: should I appeal if the moment comes? So let's start with the first question. Where do they fall in the overall process? Okay, so once we have our initial filing, we are going to then break it down to smaller subcategories here. But let's say we're talking about an I-140 process. We file it. We pay an initial fee. Right now it's $700, going to $715 sometime this year probably. Let's say we pay that fee, we go through the process, and we may get an approval, okay, during that process. That is what we all want, and that's what I'm trying to do with all this information, to help you get that approval. But sometimes we don't. We get a denial. And then is when the appeal process may begin. And this is not mandatory, this is not part of the process, and that's why I have different blocks. The green block is the I-140, this is what is included in the initial fee. If we try to pursue an appeal, if we try to get to that AAO office and ask them to reconsider our case, we enter a different phase altogether. So we'll have to pay a different fee. We are going to see later how much that is. And the appeal process starts. The appeal process can finish well for us. We can get an approval. Maybe they reconsider, we provide new evidence, and they change their mind about our process or our decision. But we can also get a final denial. That would be your final decision on it. Okay, so let's break it down a little bit further so you can really understand things like the difference between an RFE and an appeal. So in the initial filing, we submit an initial filing, we can get the I-140 approved right away, or we can get it RFID. We can get a request for evidence. The officer asks us more details about our process. And again, I have a video on this that you can watch. So let's say they ask for more evidence, we submit more evidence and more explanations. We can, again, get an approval at that point, or we can get a denial. Okay, and that's all within this first block covered by the initial fee. So with our initial I-140, we really have two chances of arguing our case. We have the initial filing, and if we don't convince the USCIS officer, we get a second chance with the request for evidence. Okay, so it's only then that we can choose, again, it's voluntary, we can choose to pursue an appeal and ask this office, AAO, to reconsider. So I also wanted to break down the different phases in the appeal process. When we submit an appeal request, USCIS is the one that will receive it. We don't send it to the AAO office directly. We send it to USCIS. The same people that took our case and review our case here, they are going to take a look at what we are arguing in our letter of the appeal, and they are going to have two options. They can even reconsider in that moment that the decision that they took was not right, and they can give you the approval, or they can forward your appeal. If they don't agree with it, they will forward it to this AAO panel for reviewing that decision. And that's what we know as really the appeal. That triggers a motion to reopen or reconsider or an appeal. So they go to the AAO office, and then they can approve it or they can, again, deny it. All right, so I hope this gives a little bit more detail about all this process, where things fit in the process, okay? So what are the potential outcomes of an appeal? I mean, we already saw a couple of them. The ones that are more straightforward are sustain. Sustain means that with your appeal, you have established eligibility. That means that they will accept your petition, your I-140 gets approved, for example. And dismissal is a denial, basically. The appeal failed to establish that eligibility for the benefit, and basically they deny it. Then you have a third one that is a summary dismissal, and that means that the appeal failed to state a valid reason. So they don't even consider that you argued sufficiently what was the problem with the initial decision on your case. The fourth one is a rejection, which is kind of similar to a rejection for the I-140. If you don't file the paperwork correctly, they just reject your case. They don't take it. And then remand is a special one. That's where the AAO office sends the case back to USCIS for further action. And I give an example so we can understand it better. Imagine that you appeal and your appeal actually succeeds. You convince the AAO office that USCIS didn't take the right action, but they identified something else that is problematic. So then they cannot approve, they cannot give you the sustained decision. They have to send it back for USCIS to treat this other issue, okay? So it's kind of like it goes back in the loop. All right, and this is the symbols that I put, okay? Sustain is yes, check mark. Dismissal is cross. Summary dismissal, I would put even 2 crosses. Reject is stop. You didn't even fill the paperwork well. You forgot the signature or whatever. And remand is may be good, may not be good. Okay. All right. So just a brief pause before we continue. Just to talk about my 2 or 3 really websites that I have now. I have one on EB-1 green cards, EB-1A, EB-1greencard.info, that's the address. And then I have EB-2 NIW info, that was the initial website I created on the NIW category. And now, for those of you that speak Spanish, I have a very similar website that I'm populating with all information that I have in the English version. Now I have a Spanish version as well. In these 2 or 3 websites, I have different posts about the process, sample petitions you can download, online courses that are the best resource that you can get out there. Now I have it both for EB-1 and EB-2 NIW. And then if you need further assistance, we can set up a call. And I have a little testimonial here about someone that took the NIW course. Coincidentally, they share my name, but this is a student, not written by me. And they say that, yeah, 5 stars for the course. This is a course that explains in detail how to put together a petition for EB-2 NIW. In summary, with this course, anyone will be able to make progress in crafting their petition. And yeah, I'm very proud of this course. It took me many, many hours to put together, but I'll go into each detail of the process, each step, and I'll show you examples from my own petition so you can craft the best case for yourself possible and you can avoid an appeal, which is what we are discussing today. But let's get back to that. If you need to appeal, how do you appeal? There is a form for this, like almost for everything in USCIS world. You have form I-290B, and that is a notice of appeal or motion. My recommendation, always, 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 no matter what we're talking about, today is appeals, some other days is something else, go to the USCIS official website first to seek information. And that includes also mine. My websites are great, but always start with USCIS, okay? And this goes against my interest, but it is true. If you want the most up-to-date, most reliable information, go to USCIS, and here I provide 3 different links that are really focused on this I-290 notice of appeal or motion. First of all, the website for that form, you will see the form there and instructions with addresses, with cost, everything is there. If you need further information, you go to the Q&A website. And then for really, really advanced people, you can dive into the AAO practice manual. This is similar to the USCIS policy manual. I went through it and I used it to prepare this video for you today. So what is the timeline? What should you expect if you decide to file an appeal? You have a maximum of 30 days to appeal, unless the denial notice specifies something different, okay? So that's your initial time frame that you have to react, 30 days. If you decide to appeal, then USCIS can conduct this initial field review, and that's where they decide, do they give you the approval or do they forward it to the AAO? So that is a maximum of 45 days they can take. Once AAO receive your appeal, they strive, so this is not a guarantee, but they strive to complete under 180 days that case, okay? And here are some statistics from the official USCIS website for this year, fiscal year 2023. How many cases were completed under that 180 days? How many appeals were completed under 180 days? So for EB-1A, that was 87%, and for EB-2 NIW, that was 98%, 99%. So as you can see, is a pretty good number. Actually, I have to say, I was a bit surprised that the numbers were this good. I thought it would take them longer to reach a decision. And remember, these are just overall statistics, and your particular time frame may be a little bit different. Okay. All right, cost. So the cost for the I-290B, that form that you need to file an appeal, is $675 as of right now. So remember, this is not a free process. If you decide that your denial, you want to fight it, you will need to pay for it. And as you can see, that cost is basically almost the same as an initial I-140, which is about $700. So not to mention that this cost is expected to go up to $800 soon once the new fee schedule goes into effect. And I have a video discussing that fee schedule. I don't discuss this particular form, but I discuss all the other changes that are coming to USCIS. This fee is non-refundable. So regardless of the decision they take, one of those 5 types of decisions that we saw they can take, you're going to have to pay for it, okay? They will not give you the money back, even if they sustain, even if they approve your petition. The most updated information about the fees, especially now that we are in a moment where fees can change over this year, is again the official website. The payment methods are similar to other USCIS forms: personal check, money order, and especially no cash accepted. So success or failure rates. what would be your estimated success rate if you choose to appeal based on the overall statistics. Luckily, USCIS provides that sort of data. So I went there and I then put together this graph for you, but these are numbers that come from USCIS. And you can see that the success rates are very, very low. That's the reality. If you look at 2018 to 2022 fiscal years for both EB-1A and EB-2 NIW I-140 appeals, you see that the best number was 75% denial rate. So at best, only 25% appeals were approved. And most likely it's going to always be worse than that. You see that most of the denial percentage are beyond 80% to 90%. So the reality is that the overall chances seem to be really low. And I add here, interestingly, the numbers are almost flipped compared to the overall I-140 success rate. I have a specific video on success rates for EB-1A and EB-2 NIW. You can go and check it out, and you'll see how for the overall initial I-140 petition, the average success rate is almost flipped, is 80, 90% depending on the category, okay? So this is not great. So conclusions we all want to get here. Should I appeal? Should I let it go? All right, so the first thing that I didn't write here is, as usually is a personal decision. You have to weigh different things. Okay, different factors, including your personal feeling. Okay, what you should do, what you think you should do. Most of the times, the objective decision is no, let it go. And that sounded a little bit like a famous movie for children. Let it go. Okay, why? Because the cost is pretty much the same as filing a new I-140. I write it here. I-140 right now is $700. This is almost $700. If you file a new petition, you can correct things. You can improve everything you learned that was weak. Why? Because you got the RFE first and you got the denial letter. And there they will explain what they don't like about your petition. So with a fresh petition, you can go back and correct everything from the beginning. You can also include new evidence. In an appeal, you can include evidence as well, but that evidence cannot be about facts that are before your filing date for I-140. But if you file a new I-140 a few months later, if you achieve something in your professional career after you file the initial I-140, you can now include it. So that's an additional advantage. And I should add one more here. I'm going to add it actually. And that is that the officer that will review your new case will most likely be different than the initial reviewers. And sometimes one of the things that I usually say is that there are factors you can control and factors you cannot control. One of the things you cannot control is who will review your case. And unfortunately, that plays a role because there's some human variability in these processes. So by filing a new I-140, you almost guarantee that someone else will pick your case, unless you are very, very unlucky, and you can rule out that factor. It is true that with an appeal, it's also end up going to the AAO office. That's a different entity, different people. But again, here you're getting two chances. Now you have the initial I-140 again, and you have the RFE again. You are paying a similar cost, and basically you can include more things. You can make it better. So my recommendation typically is go for a fresh I-140. Now, if you want to get professional help with this, then by all means consult with a lawyer to see the pros and cons in their legal expert opinion. Okay. So let me summarize these conclusions a little bit better. What are the pros and the cons of a new I-140 instead of an appeal? The pros, the advantages, similar price, and you get two chances. Why two chances? Because you get the initial I-140 filing chance, and then you may get an RFE. So that is all included in the $700. And you can make your profile stronger and include new evidence of new facts that happened in the meantime. The cons of this strategy of not appealing but filing a fresh I-140 is that primarily you will lose your initial priority date. So if you were waiting to do an adjustment of status, your date will now be the fresh I-140 priority date. This is my personal take. And with that, I just remind you that for additional EB1 information, go to this eb1greencard.info. For EB-2 NIW, depending on the language you need, you have these two websites, eb2niw.info or eb2niw.espanol.info. And for the next episodes, we are going to see different appeal decisions that are public. So these appeal decisions are in the AAO website, and I already looked at a couple of them. We're going to see more on EB1A and EB2 NIW, and we're going to include, for example, a sustained case. There are not many, like we saw, the sustained cases are 10 to 20, 25% of them. We're going to take a look at some and see why they were successful, why the AAO accepted their appeal. All right? So with that being said, I thank you as usual for your time, for your support. If you like this video, subscribe to this channel, share it with others, and above all, good luck in your EB2 NIW or EB1A journey.